My name is Frank Perez. I'm the co-founder of the LGBT Plus Archives Project of Louisiana. So the LGBT Plus Archives Project of Louisiana really has its genesis in 2012. In that year, three local gentlemen, Stuart Butler, Mark Gonzalez, and Otis Fennell, thought that it was important to start preserving local queer history, and they formed what they called the Legacy Project, which was going to be an oral history initiative. They only did one interview and they realized they were really in over their heads. They didn't have the equipment, they didn't know what they were doing, and eventually the Legacy Project kind of fell by the wayside. However, the desire to preserve local queer history persisted, and we thought it was important and something worth pursuing. And so a group of us, later came to be known as the Steering Committee, met once a month at Stuart Butler's home on Esplanade Avenue just to kind of brainstorm and figure out what we could do to preserve local history. And during that year, we actually did site visits and sent out surveys to libraries, museum, archival repositories, asking them basically, do you have any LGBT holdings? And if you don't, would you like to? They were all very much interested in increasing their LGBT holdings. We would reach out to the community, the LGBT community, and say, hey, if you've got anything, if you've got organizational records, minutes from board meetings, agendas, if you have artifacts like maybe a costume from a gay carnival ball, if you got posters from drag shows, photographs, anything, let's find a home for that. And so what we do is we meet with potential donors and we take a look at what they have, and then we suggest to them where the best fit for that would be. So we are essentially a statewide collective that connects donors to institutions, and we facilitate those donations of collections. Sometimes we send a check along with the donation to facilitate the process. But that's how the project got started. In the 1980s and early 90s, there was a lesbian who lived here in New Orleans named Valda Lewis, who produced a TV show on cable, open access cable, called Just for the Record. And it just chronicled queer life in New Orleans. It was a weekly program, and we were able to digitize those and make those available to the public. They are currently at the Amistad Research Center. And I think another one of our successes is just becoming a resource for institutions across the state. We have enabled donations to the Center for Louisiana Studies in Lafayette, the LSU Special Collections in Baton Rouge, the Historic New Orleans Collection, the State Museum, the Newcomb Archives out at Tulane, as well as Amistad Research Center, and others. Mark Gonzalez, who I mentioned earlier, was walking in his neighborhood many years ago and noticed a pile of trash outside of his friend Alan Robinson's home. Alan Robinson was a longtime LGBT activist in New Orleans. He was also the owner of the gay bookstore on Frenchman Street. And Robinson had fallen ill and died. And Mark noticed that a lot of his material was in boxes waiting to be picked up by the garbage people. And he noticed that Alan's family was in there cleaning out the house, and he says, hey, can I take this? And they said, sure, we don't care. And in these boxes were records of a lot of Alan's activism, and that would include organizing the protest against Anita Bryant in 1972, work with any number of organizations. And all that would have been completely lost if Mark had not just happened to be walking by his house that day. And there are a lot of other stories similar to that. But when you think about, the historical context in which gay people lived, until very, very recently, it was just inconceivable to live out and proud, as they say, right? To be out and proud could get you arrested, could get you fired from your job, could get you evicted from your place of residence. In some cases, could put you in a mental institution. And in many, many cases, unfortunately, being outed led to people's suicides. So it's being gay or queer was not something people wanted to document, right? For obvious reasons. And so what little material there is, we have to preserve. So recovering lost history is how I would answer that question. The benefit to the community of what we do is that we fill in gaps in the historical record.